China landed an uncrewed spacecraft on the far side of the moon on Sunday. The successful mission elevates China's space power status in a global rush to the moon and puts it a step closer to retrieving the world's first rock and soil samples from the dark lunar hemisphere. Countries, including the United States, are hoping to exploit lunar minerals to sustain long-term astronaut missions and moon bases within the next decade. The landing is China's second on the far side of the moon, a region no other country has reached. If all goes as planned, the Chang'e 6 crafts mission will provide China with a pristine record of the moon's 4.5 billion year history and yield new clues on the solar system's formation. It will also allow for an unprecedented comparison between the dark, unexplored region with the moon's better understood Earth-facing side. The side of the moon perpetually facing away from the Earth is dotted with deep, dark craters, making communications and robotic landing operations more difficult. Chang'e 6 marks the world's third lunar landing this year.
All right. Well, welcome to the final part of this, part 8, current events. And in this part, I want to document some recent headlines, relatively recent up until modern times, modern day as in today. This is 2024 when I'm recording this, to show you how this heliocentric conspiracy is still playing itself out. And of course, we are at the end of history. And so it's expected that all of these delusions and deceptions are at their maximum. We'll also find some interesting articles to basically show that they are hiding new science that's happening, just like we've seen with so many times with Schrodinger, with Airy and Sagnac and Michelson-Morley, all the good science that was ever done or any kind of thing that came up that bubbled to the surface that threatened their model, they quickly insert their explanation and narrative on top of it to deceive you. And that's still happening. That is still happening. Remember that if you know the truth, God is nearby. God is sovereign, and there's nothing to worry about. You have to be deceived to this truth, i.e. that God is nearby and that God is sovereign, in order to accept the counterfeit solution of a counterfeit savior, i.e. Rome. And that's the point. Rome creates the problem and the reaction and then the solution. So all of these things tie into, again, all roads lead to Rome, and you have to see the biblical perspective that overarches all of this stuff. Like I said, you could probably spend every day debunking NASA and all the Freemasonic occult stuff going on in the world. That is useful up until a point. You have to realize that the important point of all of this is how does it relate to the Bible, and specifically the end times, because we are at the very end of the end. So if you want to be edified with more on that, then watch my End Time series, watch my Great Delusion series. All those will edify you. The Christian Nationalist playlist, the Dark to Light playlist, the Venerable Day of the Sun ongoing coverage of developments. I don't know if it's a series, basically just an ongoing coverage. But all of those will edify you in the truth so that you can see how this, even though it's been a lot that we've covered, is really just one small piece of a greater satanic mural being put together at the end of time. So these are pretty much in order. Let's take a look at them. This is from 2012. It says, Hidden Portals in Earth's Magnetic Field at physics.org, phys.org. A favorite theme of science fiction is the portal, an extraordinary opening in space or time that connects travelers to distant realms. A good portal is a shortcut, a guide, a door into the unknown. If only they actually existed, ... It turns out that they do, sort of, and a NASA-funded researcher at the University of Iowa has figured out how to find them. We call them X-points, or electron diffusion regions, explains plasma physicist Jack Scudder of the University of Iowa. They're places where the magnetic field of the Earth connects to the magnetic field of the Sun, creating an uninterrupted path leading from our own planet to the Sun's atmosphere 93 million miles away. And again, if you believe that, I have some beachfront property for you that's going hot in Phoenix. But the reality is that maybe they're discovering something having to do with the portals of the sun and the moon. Because Enoch, the book of Enoch, talks about portals. Again, I don't think that Enoch is scripture. I don't think that it's inspired. I've talked about this in my Nephilim episode. However, it's a historical book that reflects the attitudes of the people of the time. Okay, and it's consistent with all the other cosmologies that we've seen. So, as you'll see in the next episode of this series, which will be called 15 Problems with the Circular Flat Earth Model, the idea that the Earth is a circle is not true. And that means that the sun going about this orbit above the circle is also not true. It's nonsense. The sun moves straight across the sky, but that's a problem. The question is, how do you get continuity? How do you get the sun to set? How do you get day and night? And we'll explore that because it's a very mysterious situation. But in the book of Enoch, it seems to provide an answer that there's these portals that the sun goes through and enters and comes back, sort of like a supernatural continuous situation. We'll just leave it at that. And for the rest of it, I'll invite you to tune in to the next episode of this series, which will be the last episode. But they found these electromagnetic portals, which of course they're going to tell you what they think about it, but we know a little bit better than that to question what they're saying. This is from Fox News. Scientists discover Earth's Star Trek-style invisible shield. This is from 2014. A team of scientists led by the University of Colorado Boulder has discovered an invisible Star Trek-style shield that blocks the so-called killer electron 7,200 miles above the Earth. The electrons, which travel at near light speed, are capable of damaging space electronics and can put astronauts in danger. I.e., how did you go to the moon? But anyway, the shield, which forms a barrier to particle motion, was found in the Van Allen radiation belts, according to the distinguished professor Daniel Baker, director of University Boulder, Colorado, Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Science Physics, who led the study. The radiation belts, which are held in place by Earth's magnetic field, are two donut-shaped rings that are packed with high-energy electrons and protons. This part is my favorite part right here, this next part. You ready? You really can't make this up. Quote, "It's almost like these electrons are running into a glass wall in space," said Baker in a statement. "Somewhat like the shields created by force fields on Star Trek that were used to repel alien weapons, we are seeing an invisible shield blocking these electrons. It's an extremely puzzling phenomenon." That's right, it's puzzling because you don't have the right model of the Earth and you're trying to fit it into your ridiculous model that doesn't exist. But they're finding things, again, having to do with what? What does the Bible tell you? That there is a firmament that separates the waters above from the waters below. Who knows what it exactly is? I think it's an interesting thing to think about, but there's a firmament. Accept all cookies, accept only essential ones. How about reject all cookies? Now, this is an interesting article. It's from 2019, but I wanted to lump it in with the previous one because it, again, shows you that they're discovering things that it destroys their model and then they have to quickly spin them in a different direction to make you think something else. This is from the European Space Agency, Science and Exploration. Earth's atmosphere stretches out to the moon and beyond. So they give you a little explanation here. A recent discovery based on observations by the ESA and NASA Solar and Heliocentric Observatory, SOHO, shows that the gaseous layer that wraps around the Earth reaches up 630,000 miles away, or kilometers, or 50 times the diameter of our planet. The moon flies through the Earth's atmosphere, says Igor Balyukin of Russia's Space Research Institute, lead author of the paper presenting the results. We were not aware of it until we dusted off observations made 2 decades ago by the SOHO spacecraft. Yes, the moon does fly through the Earth's atmosphere. This is a true statement. Because if you are honest and you look up at the sky, you're like, okay, that is not 50 bajillion miles away. It's a local object. just like the Bible says, and therefore it is either in the firmament or inside of it. Who knows? We can take some guesses at that next time, but the heliocentric model is now saying the moon flies through the Earth's atmosphere. Of course, they give you this little graphic of, you see, this is how it works, and there's this atmosphere around the moon, and that way we can say that we're flying to the moon and going through the atmosphere, and all sorts of other conjectures that basically deny the truth, which is that the Earth is a plane and the moon is in the atmosphere somehow. And of course, they're still presenting it to you through the heliocentric view. So this just, again, it's an example of taking science that's discovered and spinning it very quickly. Here's a classic. 2017 solar eclipse may prove the sun is bigger than we think. This is the one I was talking about. A growing number of researchers think that the sun is actually larger than commonly thought. Scientists don't know the sun's size as precisely as the details of the Earth and the moon, making a sticking point for perplexed eclipse modelers. Javier Jubier creates detailed models of solar and lunar eclipses that work with Google Maps to show precisely where the shadow of the moon will fall on the Earth and what the eclipse will look like at each point. He came to realize that there was something off about the sun's measurements as he matched his eclipse simulations with actual photos. Isn't that what you do with science, is you match empirical results with reality and see if they're a match or not? The photos helped him identify exactly where an observer had been for historical eclipses, but those precise eclipse shapes only made sense if he scaled up the sun's radius by a few hundred kilometers. For me, something was wrong here, somewhere, but that's all I could say, Hubier told Space.com. Scientists' knowledge of the Earth and moon contours weren't exactly enough to highlight this discrepancy until about 10 years ago, the same time that modern eclipse simulations began becoming possible through a computer power and precise mapping. So it was around then that Hubier began to realize something was amiss. So just when they started doing more CGI, they realized that their CGI doesn't match reality. And of course, with their reality, the sun has to be a particular size to be, the angular size that it is. And that's a real problem. If the sun is much bigger, you have a major problem. NASA researcher Ernie Wright came to a similar conclusion as he began to create increasingly precise models of solar eclipses starting about 2 years ago. He too had to scale up the sun slightly from the traditional size of his calculations to match reality. Well, that's a real problem, folks, because if you have to scale up the sun and the sun is bigger, then that means that the mass is bigger and the gravity is stronger. So in order for the gravity the distance of the Earth to be the same from the sun, the orbits have to be different. Then the orbit of the moon has to also be different because that factors in too. Everything in the solar system has to be different. Do you see how problematic that is, combined with all the other stuff we looked at with gravitational constant issues and just constant just misinformation on all these things that they're discovering, constantly spinning it one way or another and panicking when it doesn't meet their models. But you don't know about it because the media machine is just completely wrapped up around people's minds. Now, this is now from same year, 2017. The sun may be bigger than we thought. Keep this in mind because they're going to change their story just a couple years later. Common theme in science is that we puny humans aren't great at measuring things, and we're not talking about biological features here, ladies and gentlemen. Mount Everest, for example, is an obviously well-known mountain, but it may be smaller or taller than people think for a variety of reasons. The sun's another example. Its radius is presumed to be 695,700 kilometers, but a growing number of researchers suspect this is probably wrong, too. Come on, science, get it together. Yeah, get it together, science. At present, 695,700 is a defined value by the International Astronomical Union, which, by the way, remember, it honored the Jesuits on the moon's craters and things like that. But anyway, which itself is based off a 2008 study. As with previous definitions, this one measures the radius up to the edge of the photosphere, the visible envelope of the light that we can see with the naked eye. Due to constant fluctuations in the incredible brightness, this is a surprisingly difficult thing to measure with precision. It's not a solid boundary, but a fluid and almost ethereal one. Measurements of the photosphere are getting more and more precise over time, but there's still a decent margin of error. And they're telling you some more numbers and stuff. So anyway, they're basically having to say that the sun is a little bigger than they thought. Now, fast forward to, 2023, November? What does this article say? The sun may be smaller than we thought. New calculations suggest that the sun is a few fractions of a small percent smaller than previously estimated, and that could change how we study it. Yeah, could change a lot of things. Now, a new study measuring yet another type of solar wave oscillation known as a P-mode confirms that these studies from the 1990s were right. The sun is a little smaller than the standard estimates hold. So wait a minute, the 1990s said that the sun is smaller than what they thought. Then in 2017, they said, no, the sun must be bigger because the eclipse totally went off our predictions. It didn't work the way we thought it did. Now in 2023, 6 years later, they're saying, oh, well, according to new research, the 1990s were correct. Well, how do you make of that? Then that means that the mismatch in your eclipse predictions is a very serious problem in 2017 because the 2017 eclipse did not go the way that they planned. According to the research, which has not yet been peer-reviewed but was posted October 17th to the physics preprint database RZIV, which we've mentioned before, the sun's radius is more like 695,780 kilometers. That's a diameter of about 1,391,5,600 kilometers. In essence, both the old F-mode data and the new P-mode measurements point to a similar size, the researchers concluded. So they don't know left from right, folks. They're just constantly oscillating on these things because they're trying to mathematize something that is not there. I mean, of course, the sun is there, but it's not a giant ball of gas, 93 million miles away. It's nonsense. This is from CBN, which is a perfect example of the false prophet and these new age churches basically supporting the cosmology of the beast. This is CBN's article on the moon landing. In December 1968, NASA launched the first manned mission to the moon. No one, not even the astronauts aboard, was certain that they'd be able to return safely. Their journey, the most hazardous and dangerous ever embarked upon, took them to the boundaries of another world and even more remarkably brought peace to their own. They brought peace to the world. World peace is finally visible, folks. We can finally unite under Rome, and all of us can have the peace that we've been dreaming for. Because now we can see the Earth, and we can see what it looks like in this tiny little glip of a ball in a giant void, and so we have to treasure it. And so we need a moral authority to help us treasure this, to tell us what to do, left or right. Who's that moral authority? Well, the Pope seems like the nice guy to do it, so let's have him do it. And of course, this is a quote-unquote Protestant site. It was shortly after 5:30 a.m. on Christmas Eve that something remarkable happened. After spotting the barren far side of the moon for the first time, the astronauts on board captured a photo that has since been known as Earthrise. For all the turmoil, tragedy, and political tumult the world had experienced during 1968, this iconic, indelible image captured the beauty and fragility of our home planet. Does it sound like they're on board with the false prophet's ecumenical agenda? Of course it does. And then, with more than 1 billion people watching around the world on television, the astronauts delivered a message to the largest audience in human history. It was a sentiment for all mankind and one straight from the pages of the Bible. As the nation waited in prayerful consideration, astronauts Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Anders spoke the following words. And they read the first 10 verses of Genesis. And of course, what is this about, folks? What is this about? They're reading to you the book of Genesis, which tells you that there's a firmament and that the sun was created after the earth. They're reading this to you, giving you a chance to reject their spell. Because if you accept it and you accept their presentation of what the Bible is saying, even though the Bible refutes them very obviously, then the spell is cast. So they're giving you a chance to reject it because they have to. They're giving you a chance. They're reading to you the truth. And of course, 99% of the ignorant masses out of that 1 billion were just goo-goo gaga over the false signs and wonders in the sky. Of course, they're not in the sky. They're in some Hollywood basement. And the rest is history. Today, people like CBN, which is very ecumenical, is honoring this idea that we can be one. We can be one world, one global situation, because NASA went to the moon in 1969. But they refute themselves because there's one of these is an article I wanted to see. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to look at. This is from 2023, but this is what I was going to say. Earthrise shows you right off the bat that they're faking everything. Remember the picture of Earthrise? How the moon is basically the moon is the horizon, and then the Earth is this tiny little, blue ball in the distance, which doesn't make any sense because you have an objective frame of reference. This is how they shoot themselves in the foot. And this is another example of how all these things, they lose control of these things. So they have to constantly, redirect the media machine to reinterpret the information. But they refute themselves all the time if you're paying attention. This article says, this is from Mashable, spacecraft sends back unusual view of Earth and the moon. So here's the Earth. Here's huge Earth, right? Compared to the moon. Here's the moon. And supposedly a spacecraft shot the relationship between these two. This is all CGI, but let's take them at their word and see how problematic this is for the Earthrise picture. The race to land on the moon will bleed into 2024 as more national space programs and private companies pursue the daunting feat. Though only about half of all lunar landing attempts have succeeded without crashing, space fans will likely get many spectacular Earth and moon photos along the way, like the latest one beamed back by Japan. Its uncrewed slim mission, short for Smart Lander for investigating the moon, captured a rare snapshot of Earth looming over the moon, though you might have to squint to see it. Japan, illuminated at dawn, is circled on the Earth picture. So here's the moon, and here's the Earth. Now this is a real problem, folks, because you have an objective frame of reference. We know that when we look at the sky and we see a full moon, it's about the size of a quarter in your visual field when you look at the sky. Depending, sometimes, there's, a lot of atmospheric refraction, a lot of humidity, so the moon is pretty big. But we're talking on average, especially if you're in a dry place, like where I'm at, the moon is like a quarter in the sky, give or take. Let's say something like that, maybe a little smaller, depending on how far that quarter is. Let's say I'm a quarter, about 2 or 3 feet away, something like that, right? Give or take, rough approximation. Well, that is the same size that the Earth was when they were on the moon. Going back to our little picture here, they're on the moon taking a picture to the Earth. Do you see a major problem with the Earthrise picture? The major problem is the Earth would not be looking like the moon does to us. The distance is the same in the heliocentric model. Whether you're on the Earth looking at the moon or the moon looking at the Earth, the constant is the distance. The distance is the same, meaning the laws of perspective have not changed. Do you understand? So if I'm changing perspective and I'm going on the moon and looking back at the Earth, then the Earth should be huge in my visual field. Not this tiny little speck, which of course they did it because they wanted to make people believe the whole idea that, we're alone in the universe and we need to unite. We need to unite people so that we have a new world order so that we can, not lose our planet. That's why they did that. But in doing so, they didn't think very logically. And this is why they shoot themselves in the foot. Especially later when you have these types of things where these shenanigans throw light on previous shenanigans. And this absolutely, now, if this is an official claim that's being made, you can use it against the previous claim. So they're only shooting themselves in the foot. And they're constantly up to shenanigans. And of course, these other places like China and India and Japan, they realize they can make money on it and they want to copy the money laundering scheme. And they're all taking directives because they're all part of secret societies. You know the drill, folks. America is not the only place that is ruled by secret societies. It's everywhere. So there's nothing new under the sun. This is another example of just trolling you from IFL Science. Earth just received laser beam cat video from 19 million miles away. This little kitty with a laser, if you believe this, then beachfront property. The first streaming video carried by laser beam from beyond the moon has been received from 31 kilometers away. For extra points, it's ultra high definition and very cute. Among the technical challenges required for human colonization of the solar system, improved communication systems may not be top of the mind. However, when you consider how painfully long it took New Horizons to send back its images from its brief flyby Pluto, it's clear we need to pick up the pace. So you're telling me, first off, that a cat video can be mailed or whatever, sent to you over a distance of 19 million miles. 19 million miles of signal, and yet you and I have problems with our cell phone getting signals from various towers. Come on, it's nonsense. Last month, NASA conducted a demonstration of the practicality of using near-infrared laser beams to transmit data from the Psyche mission, which Psyche is another Greco-Roman pagan goddess, then at a distance of 16 kilometers, 10 million miles from Earth. These numbers are so huge that they just make you go, oh, I guess it must be real. You don't have a concept for that distance, and that's the point. All of this stuff is designed to get you to get out of your analytical mind and to think with your emotions, to trust them just based off authority. It's all designed to subvert your rational mind and rational thinking. There's no concept for 19 million miles. That is absurd. 19 million miles is insane. There's no way you can conceptualize that. So that's what they bank on. But remember that angular size and all of the number calculations, they shoot themselves in the foot. Because their goal is to basically flutter you with all sorts of crazy numbers so you don't think. But in doing so, they refute themselves because math is math. And you can use angular size calculations and refute their whole heliocentric model based on the numbers they themselves give you. This is from the brighter side. Mammoth underground ocean contains 3 times more water than all oceans combined. Is that the waters below, I wonder? An astonishing depth of approximately 400 miles beneath our planet's surface, there's an abundant reservoir of water. And they give you a nice artist's rendition. This is what it looks like really quick before you even think of the Bible. This is what it looks like. Yeah, for sure. For sure you can count that this is exactly what it looks like when they have no clue. A reservoir of water 3 times the volume of the oceans has been discovered deep beneath the Earth's surface. Recently, groundbreaking scientific discoveries have been rolling out at a breathtaking pace. And that means the media has to be rolling out at a breathtaking pace. From astronomical research on what's inside the black hole to the majestic 8th continent and the North American lake larger than the Great Lakes combined. Each of these findings seems incomprehensible until now. Yet perhaps the most awe-inspiring is this. Deep beneath our feet, below the Earth's crust, lies a colossal ocean. That's not surprising. The Bible tells you there's waters below. The great deep. An astonishing depth of approximately 400 miles beneath our planet's surface, there's an abundant reservoir of water stored within a rock type identified as ringwoodite. This intriguing revelation is reshaping our understanding of the Earth's water cycle and its intricate geophysical processes. Yet it also refutes your stupid ball because there's no way that would happen on a ball where the core has to be hot and it's some sort of metallic molten core with temperatures of however many thousands of degrees. And you're telling me that the test that they've done on the core is that the temperature increases something like, I don't remember the exact figure, but it's like 50 degrees every, I don't know, a couple hundred feet. I could be wrong about that. But there's a rate at which the base temperature of the Earth increases as you go under because it gets more dense and it's pressure and everything else, right? So the pressure increases the temperature. So what is the point? The point is that for this to be 400 feet below the Earth's surface, on a ball, that doesn't work because how would that work if this has a molten core and lava and is so hot, you wouldn't have water, you'd have steam, you'd have something else. You wouldn't have oceans. That doesn't make any sense. But of course, in a biblical model, it makes perfect sense because it tells you the water's below, the Earth isn't moving, it's stationary, it's on pillars. Who knows how it all looks again together as a system, but it makes perfect sense because there's no such thing as a molten core in a biblical Earth. So this refutes their model. But of course, again, the artist's renditions, quick little explanation, and you're done. This is from the New York Post. NASA launches mission to intercept God of Chaos asteroid as it nears Earth's orbit. December 26th, 2023. A NASA spacecraft has recently returned from deep space and has been relaunched for a mission to study the God of Chaos asteroid as it begins to near Earth's orbit. The agency's spacecraft OSIRIS-REx, i.e. King Osiris, now named OSIRIS-APEX, has been sent off to study the asteroid Apophis' extremely close flyby by the Earth in 2020. Wasn't Apophis another Egyptian? Was it the crocodile that would eat people's hearts? I don't remember, but he's something from Egypt. It's supposed to fly by Earth in 2029, so make sure to mark your calendars because that year's probably going to be full of shenanigans, the likes of which hasn't happened since the dawn of recorded history. The spacecraft returned to Earth in September after spending 7 years collecting samples from the space rock Bennu. Apophis, also known as the God of Chaos, is expected to fly by Earth on April 13th, 2029 at about only 20,000 miles away, closer than some man-made satellites, and could even be visible in the Eastern Hemisphere. Now, who knows what these things actually are, or if they're planning to do something, which is why they're announcing it to you. I don't really know. But either way, it's not some giant void that is having these giant rocks floating around through space and they're going to come next to the Earth. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. But of course, what is this going to prompt? This is going to prompt we need to unite the world, and NASA's going to lead the charge, and we're all going to, take out this asteroid or whatever else. This is ecumenical stuff, folks. You have to understand, at the very least, it's frightening you into accepting the cosmology of the beast, so that then you could accept the solutions that the beast presents in terms of all these other things like climate change or uniting the world. This is from Catholic News again, Fox News, December 23rd or 31st, 2023. Mexico eagerly prepares for historic first Latin American lunar mission, quote, elevates the name of our country. Mexico will launch its first lunar mission next month, a historic step for the country and Latin America as a whole, according to officials. Quote, this project will make history and is the first of its kind in Latin America, which elevates the name of our country, confirming once again that Mexican engineering is at the level of the best in the world. Salvador Landeros, director of the Mexican Space Agency, said in a press release. I wonder if Salvador has, let's see, a ring on his finger that is a Freemason ring. That would be interesting. A team of scientists, I don't know if that's Salvador though, maybe it's not him. A team of scientists and nearly 250 university students developed 5 microbots that AEM will launch from Cape Canaveral, Florida, between January 8th and January 11th as part of the Project Colmena. These are just shenanigans, folks. They're getting the whole world to... NASA is the one that led the charge, and then they're coordinating with these people through secret societies to extend the echo chamber. Do you understand? To extend the echo chamber so that other countries are discovering what NASA did and making sense. So there you go. We must believe that we must exist on a ball because there's consensus now. All these space agencies agree that the moon exists as an object that you can land on. You see, everybody's landing on the moon. Do you see what they're doing? They're extending, the false prophet through NASA is extending the delusion to the rest of the world by getting these other people to reproduce it so that it seems that everybody else is doing the same thing. It's very clever. But of course, if you know the truth, which you do now, these things are just delusions. Here's another one that just makes me laugh. January 3rd, 2024. Man makes contact with International Space Station using homemade antenna. Amateur ham radio enthusiast has made one of the coolest contacts possible, talking with an astronaut aboard the International Space Station using a homemade antenna. The ham radio operator, Doug, made contact with the ISS as it passed overhead in July 2023. At the very most, he made contact with a plane that was flying overhead. But who knows what they do. I don't know if the plane would be manned. Maybe it is manned. Maybe not. I would assume that it wouldn't be manned, but maybe it is. Quote, I've made numerous voice and APRS automatic packet reporting system contacts over the FM satellites and the ISS repeater, Doug wrote on his YouTube page. But I've always wanted to talk to an astronaut. Over the Memorial Day weekend, I finally made the contact. I made contact with the ISS and talked to Woody Hoberg. What a thrill. How do you know that Woody Hoberg was on the ISS in space? How do you know that you're talking to somebody in space? That's the question. Just because you made contact with something? That's just so crazy. And of course, people eat it up. They love this kind of stuff. And who knows if this person is just an actor, a plant designed to make people think like, look, there's an ISS, it's real, type of thing. These are false signs and wonders, folks. This one's from Gizmodo. The moon is about to become a graveyard. An upcoming launch will usher in a new era of commercial payloads being dropped off to deep space destinations like the moon. As we gain greater access to space, things are going to start getting weird. On Monday, Astrobotic's long-awaited Peregrine lunar lander will blast off from Cape Canaveral, Florida, carrying government and commercial payloads to the moon. The lander is packed with a host of scientific instruments from NASA, a swarm of tiny robots from Mexico, and even a physical Bitcoin. But perhaps the most bizarre payloads are the cremated remains and DNA of more than 200 people sent to the great beyond by their loved ones for an out-of-this-world memorial service. Really? Or is this just occult stuff as usual? 2 different companies, Celestis and Elysium Space, are launching space memorial missions on board Peregrine. That includes DNA from legendary science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke, as well as the trace cremated ashes of the creator of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry, and several members of the cast, including Nichelle Nichols, best known for her role as Lieutenant Nyota Uhura. The mission will also endearingly include longtime Star Trek fan Gloria Nolan, a mother of 8 from Vancouver who died 12 years ago, and whose family wanted to pay tribute by including her remains on the flight. Isn't that nice? Here are continuing DNA samples that are believed to be from George Washington, Dwight Eisenhower, and John F. Kennedy will also be on the flight. Just a mishmash of deluded people and secret society members, all in one occult, immortal soul ritual to go to the moon. So there you go. This is the new thing, is making a business out of... See, NASA was the original business out of this. Now it's becoming a privatized thing where people are... Of course, NASA is the one that's screening all of these people. You don't get to go out in space and do anything unless you have permission from NASA. But NASA has proliferated their schemes through all of these non-governmental organizations, through corporations, through private companies. So the echo chamber builds and builds and builds. And you think, well, it's not just NASA now that's getting the heat. Everybody's going to space, so it must be true. And of course, they're making a ton of money at it as they go. That's the promise. This is from 2024 also now. So now we're in 2024, January 2024. TheGuardian.com actually. Why landing on the moon is proving more difficult today than 50 years ago. Moon mission records provide a clue as to why getting to the lunar surface remains far from straightforward. Did I highlight anything? I don't think I highlighted. I did. No, I didn't. But this is just a joke, folks. Just like that video. I didn't play it, but the guy that was asking him about how can you operate it, mechanical, basically, door in a vacuum. And that same guy, there's another video of him running around online where he's like, well, we can't go back to the moon because we just lost all the technology. It's like, what do you mean you lost all the technology? We're more technologically advanced now than in 1969. And it's just nonsense. So you have these apologetic articles that they're constantly shifting their story because people are figuring it out. And so they have to adjust and make it, how can we make this more believable? And of course, here's the famous picture. They use the picture from the moon and the reflector. These basically show you that there's a cameraman and so on. And there's so many of these where the reflectors basically debunk their whole lunar landing nonsense. This is from the Byte, futurism.com. Japanese moonlander dying after touching down on lunar surface. Oh, isn't that sad? While Japan has technically become the 5th country in the world to land a spacecraft on the surface of the moon, following the Soviet Union, the United States, China, and India, its lander didn't stick the landing and its power reserves are quickly running out. The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency's smart lander for investigating the moon landed just after 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Get out of here. Seemingly surviving its 20 minutes of terror. But it's a bittersweet moment. While it's survived its journey to the surface largely unscathed and it's communicating with stations back on Earth and even receiving and responding to commands, JAXA officials confirmed at a press conference that its solar cells are not generating power. Gosh, so much drama. It's still unclear exactly why, though it sounds like the lander likely touched down at an awkward angle that's keeping it from generating solar energy. Officials are still investigating the exact cause. Officials also confirmed that to preserve battery life, the team shut off the spacecraft's heating elements. In short, Japan has made it to the moon, but it's just quite didn't stick to the landing. It just didn't quite stick the landing, I guess, is what they're trying to say. So they made it to the moon. Don't worry. Do you see the propaganda? All these things. It's just propaganda, folks. Propaganda. And hopefully you can see it very clearly now. Here's one that's funny from Yahoo News. Houthis could attack Britain's underwater internet cables. Oh no, well wait a minute, if we have satellites, then who cares? Houthi rebels could attack Britain's underwater internet cables, a new report has warned. The Iran-backed militia have conducted drone and missile attacks against ships in the Red Sea, disrupting global shipping in response to the war in Gaza. A report by Policy Exchange has warned that the Houthis could broaden their response to the conflict by taking it, quote, to the subsea domain and targeting underwater cables. Undersea cables are vital digital connectivity infrastructure with some 500 fiber optic cables crossing the ocean floor across the world. Did you know that? British companies are among the consortia which own the Red Sea cables, with British Telecom owning a stake in the major AAE1 cable that runs from Europe through Africa to Asia. Policy Exchange has warned that Iran-backed groups, including the Houthis and Hezbollah, have indicated on official social media channels that they could target the cables. And everybody's panicking because you're going to target the internet cables. But wait a minute, don't we have satellite internet? I thought most internet's from satellites. It's not, folks. You got those gliders that we looked at. We have internet cables. We have buoys. It's a terrestrial system for the most part, with, of course, a few of those exceptions. This is from 2024, March. Every 2.4 million years, Mars tugs on the Earth so hard it changes the ocean floor, if you can believe that. A new geological study suggests that Mars' gravitational field pulls the Earth closer to the sun over cycles lasting millions of years, warming our climate. This is what you need to know. You're going to hear some scientific gobbledygook, and you're going to see what the point is. What is the point of all this scientific gobbledygook? It is because it's creating climate change. Mars' gravitational pull on the Earth may be influencing the climate of our planet, new research hints. Geological evidence tracing back more than 65 million years and taken from hundreds of sites across the world suggests that deep sea currents have repeatedly gone through periods of being either stronger or weaker. This happens every 2.4 million years and is known as the astronomical grand cycle, if you can believe that. The stronger currents, known as giant whirlpools or eddies, may reach the seafloor at the deepest parts of the ocean, known as the abyss. These powerful currents then erode away at the large pieces of sediment that accumulate during calmer periods in the cycle, according to research published Tuesday in the journal Nature Communications. What if their model is completely wrong and it's not 2.4 million years? What if something else is happening? You ever question that? Nobody ever seems to question these things. They tell you, research has been published. Okay, so what? And they're presenting to you as like, this is now the thing that you have to believe. These cycles happen to coincide with the timing of known gravitational interactions between Earth and Mars as the two planets orbit the sun, the study found. What do you mean known gravitational interactions? There's no gravity. How can you have known gravitational interactions? The gravity fields of the planets in the solar system interfere with each other, and this interaction, called a resonance, changes planetary eccentricity, a measure of how close to circular the orbits are. The study co-author Dietmar Müller, a professor of geophysics at the University of Sydney, said in a statement. Again, you can't have non-circular orbits. If you have any amount of non-circular orbit, that means gravity is fluctuating constantly, and there's no explanation as to why a planet would continue to be in an oval of any kind orbit throughout millions and millions of years. If gravity is increasing, decreasing, if that happens, the planet would either be let go on the out of it when the gravity is decreasing, or it would be sucked into the sun when gravity is increasing to bring it closer. It's nonsense. Due to this resonance, the Earth is pulled slightly closer to the sun by Mars' gravitational pull, meaning our planet is exposed to more solar radiation and hence has a warmer climate, before drifting backward again, all over a period of 2.4 million years. So there you go. Now they're changing their story. It's not about the man-made climate change. Now it's these cycles that you just can't affect, and so you just got to believe it because the research says, and so we have to do something about it to start cutting carbon emissions because we're in that 2.4 million year cycle. It's nonsense. Why does it always go to the bottom? Newfound glitch in Einstein's relativity could rewrite the rules of the universe, study suggests. Einstein's theory of general relativity is our best description of the universe at large scales. Is it? You know better now, don't you? But a new observation that reports a glitch in gravity around ancient structures could force it to be modified. Artist's rendition, to give you a little picture so you can think. A strange cosmic glitch in gravity could explain the universe's weird behavior on the largest scales, researchers suggest. First formulated by Albert Einstein in 1915, the theory of general relativity remains our best and most accurate understanding of how gravity works on medium to large scales. No, it is a lie and a conjecture, and you know that by now. Yet zoom out even farther to view enormous groups of gravitational-bound galaxies interacting, and some inconsistencies appear to emerge. This suggests that gravity, which is theorized to be a constant across all times and scales, could actually become slightly weaker at cosmic distances. In a study published on March 20th in the Journal of Cosmology and Astroparticle Physics, researchers describe this discrepancy as a cosmic glitch that they say their proposed fix for it could help us understand some of the universe's most enduring mysteries. Quote, it's like making a puzzle on the surface of a sphere, then laying the pieces on a flat table and trying to fit them together. Can't make this stuff up, folks. Yeah. At some point, your model, which is fake, is going to not explain reality so well. So you have to figure out some more conjecture, some more band-aids to put those pieces together. Said co-author Neej Ashfordi, a professor of astrophysics at the University of Waterloo in Ontario. At some point, the pieces on the table will not quite fit each other because you're using the wrong framework. Exactly. Is it a table or is it a ball? Well, you know from episode 4 in this series that you can take math and take a table and turn it into a ball, and nobody's the wiser because the math works out if your assumptions aren't corrected. The glitch is the smoking gun for a fundamental violation of Einstein's equivalence principle, or the Lorentz symmetry, which could point to radically different pictures for quantum gravity, the Big Bang, or black holes, as Forty said, i.e. conjecture, conjecture, conjecture. These are just conjectures, folks, but they do these things, again, because they're trying to pivot and pivot and pivot and get away from the expiration date that is on every lie that they create. This is, again, from 2024. This is recent, May 26th. A force more powerful than gravity within the Earth. How magnetism locked itself inside our planet. As the magma cooled to form what is today the world's solid outer crust, magnetism was locked into minerals containing iron, such as magnetite. Give you the story. So there's a phenomenon. Then really quick, the snake comes in front and says, no, this is what's happening. Gives you an artist's rendition. Are you noticing a pattern of what's happening? They give you all these things. I wonder if I highlighted something. No, I did not. But this is it. They're acknowledging to you that magnetism exists, that's very powerful, and that it's in the Earth. And yet, somehow Cavendish and all these people are sensing something so minuscule and are able to isolate that tiny vibration and possible attraction between masses from every other vibrational force and magnetic manifestation in the universe, right? Somehow they're able to isolate that. Of course, it's nonsense if you understand scientific principles. This is from the debrief.org. Gravity without mass? New study challenges the existence of hypothetical dark matter. June 2024. A recent study that presents new challenges to the existence of dark matter suggests gravity may be able to exist even in the absence of mass. So there you go, folks. Now we've crossed into the deep end that we don't even need mass for gravity to exist. Because, of course, that's a circular problem that they have to overcome. Although all life on Earth experiences effects daily, gravity remains one of the great mysteries of modern physics. Now, a new study published by Dr. Richard Liu of the University of Alabama in Huntsville proposes that the gravitational effects observed in galaxies and clusters may be the result of what he likens to topological effects in the universe, a theory that does not require the inclusion of dark matter to explain phenomena observed in our universe, i.e., conjecture. This is all just conjecture on top of conjecture. A hypothetical non-luminous material believed in many to account for as much as 85% of the mass of the known universe, dark matter was initially conceived to help account for gravitational effects that scientists presently cannot explain with Einstein's theory of general relativity. Yeah, because relativity is bogus. And of course, some things do not have explanation, especially when you look through the telescope into the firmament, whatever you're looking at. And so they have to keep adding to the conjecture. Well, this band-aid and this circumstance, well, maybe now gravity doesn't have to deal with mass, and on and on and on and on. First proposed in 1932 by Dutch astronomer Jan Oort, astrophysicists have continued searching for evidence of this mysterious invisible material, which remains unconfirmed, i.e. because it's a conjecture. Just like gravity, just like gravitational waves, just like gravitons, just like all of this stuff. However, not everyone is convinced that dark matter offers the best solution to the questions astrophysicists have about the cosmos. In his recent study, Liu suggests an entirely new approach that could fundamentally upend our current understanding of the universe's mass and gravitational forces. Well, let's say he's right. He's not right, but let's say he's right. Are they willing to go back and say, well, I guess Cavendish was wrong, or all these other experiments? Of course they're not. But nobody's ever going to say that, because that is the establishment you're dealing with. This is from Study Finds. Cosmic bombshell may change everything we know about the Milky Way galaxy. Every year there's something changing everything we know about science. And nobody stands to question like, if that's the case, then do they really know anything at all to begin with? Isn't that the $1 million question? Benjamin Button effect allows astronomers to better calculate the last big crash. A stunning new study may upend everything we know about our cosmic home, the Milky Way galaxy. According to researchers from the Rensselaer Polytechnical Institute, our galaxy may have collided with another galaxy billions of years later than scientists previously thought. In fact, according to the study, the last time the Milky Way collided with another star cluster, the Earth had already formed. What a light show that must have been! Gosh, then you imagine it, then there's a little CGI, and that's all you need. And suddenly you are in the delusion. And of course, these things are just fake news, folks. When you're looking out and you see something like what they call the Milky Way, what are you seeing? If your assumption is, I'm looking at a void, this endless void, and there's these giant spheres of gas called stars and nebulas, and sure, you're interpreting it from that lens, then okay, that's what you would interpret it as. But what if you're interpreting it from the lens of a biblical cosmology lens? There's a firmament. Maybe there's a scar in the firmament where it opened up and water came through. I mean, I don't know. You're looking at something. This is the challenge, is that we've all been programmed with these images. And again, there's the phenomenon, which is true. It's there. And then the snake really quickly comes in and tickles your ear with what's happening so that he imprints his meaning and his matrix on top of the phenomenon. So when you look at something like this, of course, this is a fake image, but when you look and you see these things through a telescope, or you see these phenomenon, you have to deprogram the story that you've been told about them. There's the phenomenon, there's you, and then in between you and the phenomenon is the Antichrist spirit that's coming in to tell you exactly what's happening, so that eventually you can be steered away from God and into the power of this world, which is the devil. This is from earth.com. Lightning sparks the discovery of a new electromagnetic wave. In the realm of electromagnetic waves, new discoveries often stir the academic world. But when lightning leads to the identification of an entirely new type of wave that challenges current understanding, it generates ripples beyond academia. This is precisely the case with a recent investigation by two scientists from the University of Alaska. The breakthrough research has led to the discovery of a new type of electromagnetic wave referred to as specularly reflected whistler. The role of lightning energy. The remarkable discovery was made by Vikas Sonwalkar, a highly respected professor emeritus, and Amani Reddy, a dynamic assistant professor at UAF. The researchers identified this new wave, which intriguingly carries lightning energy from the ionosphere at low altitudes all the way to the magnetosphere, a critical region of space surrounding the Earth. Previously, it was believed that lightning energy entering the ionosphere at low altitudes remained trapped within the atmospheric layer and did not reach the radiation belts, those crucial zones of charged particles encircling our planet. However, the current study completely turns that long-held assumption on its head, revealing a much more complex interaction between lightning energy and Earth's magnetic environment. That's right, you live in a clock battery type of system that is so profound and so well designed and so specifically timed with everything. It's running on electromagnetic energy. It's infinite energy. It doesn't run out of energy. And electromagnetism, the rules of electricity and magnetism, rule how these things work. Of course, I'm sure there's probably some supernatural elements too. Who knows how it all works? But what is the point of this article? The point is that if they're discovering a new type of electromagnetic wave, that now after 2024, after how many hundreds of years of studying gravity since Cavendish, are you willing to go back to Cavendish and say, yeah, he discovered gravity, when there are so many things that could have polluted his results, and you're constantly finding out, like we've covered many times, new results, new discovery upends our understanding of magnetism, new magnetic wave is discovered, and on and on and on and on, constantly showing you that we don't know all there is to know about this electromagnetic system. So how can you possibly say that you isolate something so sensitive as gravity, quote unquote, is claimed to be, when you have all of this electromagnetic pollution and noise that is constantly in the Earth because of these various mechanisms? You can't. If you're an honest scientist, you can't. You can't isolate that. And unfortunately, they're not honest. Quanta magazine, do we need a new theory of gravity? Observations of the cosmos suggest that unseen sources of gravity, dark matter, tug at the stars and galaxies, while another mysterious force, dark energy, drives the universe to expand at an ever-increasing rate. Now, remember really quick, Hubble's law is not a law, it's a fraud. It's Hubble's fraud. The universe is not expanding. So already we're failing here. The evidence for both of them, however, hinges on assumptions that gravity works the same way at all scales. What if that's not true? In this episode, theoretical physicist Claudia Durham explains her work on an alternative explanation called massive gravity to host Jana Levin. Of course, they don't know their left from their right, and it's just theory after theory. Well, what if it works like this? The math models say this. Well, maybe we can do some math and reflect it this way. It's nonsense. Now we get to some of the nitty-gritty good stuff. Catholic news agencies. What can science tell us about eternity? Vatican Observatory to present latest reflection. Now do you see everything coming together? Eternity between space and time, from consciousness to the cosmos, is the title of an upcoming report to be released by the Vatican Observatory, where unpublished reflections on eternity studied from different disciplines will be presented. Take a note of all of this. The University of Padua in Italy, together with the Vatican Observatory, have investigated eternity from new scientific perspectives thanks to 24 contributions from some of the world's greatest scholars in different disciplines such as physics, psychology, philosophy, and theology. Contributors include Nobel Prize winners Gerard Hooft and Roger Penrose, joined by Federico Fagin, Mauro D'Ariano, Gabriele Veneziano, Massimo Cacciari, Giulio Goggi, and Kurt Appel. Questions about God and consciousness are addressed alongside quantum theory, black holes, cosmic inflation, and the Big Bang, and string theory, considering the contributions of neuroscience and artificial intelligence. The report, which will be released September 6th, is the result of the International Conference of the Theme of Eternity held in May 2022 at the University of Padua. The conference was attended by the world's leading scholars in the fields of physics, philosophy, theology, and psychology. Do you see now what I've been talking to you about? How the missing piece, which a lot of flat earthers do not have, unfortunately, maybe they will after seeing all of this, is that this leads you back to Rome. Rome is uniting spirituality and science once again. Because again, the whole point of separating them was that they could come back and Rome would be the moral authority above all things. Rome is hosting all of these intellectuals, philosophy, theology, quantum physics, sure, all the mystery religion stuff that we've covered in this entire presentation. Come back to Rome. Now, Rome is going to give you its idea of God and consciousness, and it's going to unite, it's going to find the theory of everything for you that ties all of this into a spiritual mindset, of course, that will be broadcast to the rest of the world because all these people are puppets of Rome. The Nobel Prize hasn't been an intellectually honest prize in a while. You're selected, just like presidents are selected, just like everybody else is selected. So all these people are just puppets of Rome. And Rome is now bringing everybody back to itself, and it is the voice of reason in science. Why is Rome having a lecture with all these people who are quantum physics and cosmic inflations and Big Bang theory and all this nonsense, which most of the stuff is occult science, which we've looked at over and over again? It's because the mystery religion is coming to the forefront, folks. And you will see more and more of this. Rome will be the voice of reason that unites science and spirituality back to itself, which is just like spirituality, or the state and spirituality. How communism and religious nationalism were separated after the French Revolution, so that communism could be the bad cop and beat you up and make you desire a religion again and the control of religion, because it's way better than this communist guy. And this is exactly what's happening now. The left has pushed people to the right, and people are embracing religious nationalism, and Rome is bringing everything to itself. Whether it's science or politics or religion or whatever else, it is truly fascinating to see all of these threads come together in one place, which tells you that the Bible is true, that the devil did give great power, his throne, and his authority to the beast, because otherwise there's no explanation for how well coordinated they are and how absolutely influential they are over all of this evil. It's truly fascinating. And I know why John marveled greatly at Mystery Babylon. A couple more here. Quantum experiment could finally reveal the elusive gravity particle. Now remember, what's the issue with relativity and quantum mechanics is that they hijack Schrodinger's wave equations and they're applying them to a non-existent particle model of the atom. And so the reason they get any predictions right about the electron or the photon is because they're using wave mechanics, Schrodinger's wave equations, because light and electricity and magnetism and all these things are waves. They're a medium that's being waved, the ether. Again, who knows how it all works? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know. But I know it's not this. I know that when they have these articles like quantum experiment, immediately you think, oh, this is too complicated for me to understand. So I'm just going to trust what the science says. And I guess they almost discovered the gravity particle. Nonsense. There's no such thing as gravity. Therefore, there's no such thing as a gravity particle. And even if there was gravity, it would be a force through a field. There would be no particle attached to such a field or a force. The graviton, a hypothetical particle that carries the force of gravity, has eluded detection for over a century. But now physicists have designed an experiment set up that could, in theory, detect these tiny quantum objects. Remember, quantum is nonsense. So even if they do detect it, they're probably detecting some sort of wave, electromagnetic wave. And how do you separate that information from all of the other things we've looked at? How do you separate the two? It doesn't make sense. Not scientific whatsoever. In the same way, individual particles called photons are force carriers for the electromagnetic field. No, there's an ether, and it's oscillating. That's what creates these effects, not particles. Gravitational fields could theoretically have its own force-carrying particles called gravitons. In theory, in math, in the world of abstract math. The problem is they interact so weakly that they've never been detected, and some physicists believe they never will. But a new study led by Stockholm University is more optimistic. The team has described an experiment that could measure what they call the gravitophononic effect and capture individual gravitons for the first time. The experiment would involve cooling a massive 1,800 kilogram bar of aluminum to a hair above absolute zero, hooking it up to a continuous quantum sensors, whatever that is, and waiting patiently for the gravitational waves to wash over it. When one does, the instrument would vibrate. Now notice how they say, really quick, you see how they said gravitational waves to wash over it? They're not saying gravitational particles, but it's because of their quantum nonsense of saying, well, wave-particle duality. That's nonsense. There's no such thing as wave-particle duality. If they do detect any kind of waves, they're not particles, number one, and certainly it's not gravity. It's who knows what sort of electromagnetic frequency that's going through the ether, through the electromagnetic atmosphere that we live in. When one does, the instrument would vibrate at very tiny scales, which the sensors could see as a series of discrete steps between energy levels. How do you know what it is that you are measuring? If a wave oscillates this giant, cooled block of aluminum, how do you know? It's nonsense. Each of these steps or quantum jumps could mark the detection of a single graviton. It could, but that's theory. That's all theory and conjecture. Do you see how they just assume that they're right, as opposed to, let's test it and see what happens, and then let's see if we can isolate that from the billions of other things that are fluctuating in the universe. Here's another thing. You can look this up for yourself, but alien abductions call on Jesus. And there's so many documented hundreds of cases of people being, quote unquote, abducted by aliens, calling on Jesus, and the experience ending. Now, if we're dealing with little green men from Mars, I don't think they would care. But if we're dealing with what the Bible tells you, that the earth is enclosed, there was fallen angels, there's demons, there's spiritual principalities at work, and you're calling on the name of Jesus Christ. And these experiences, which are very similar to sleep paralysis, they're ending. What's going on here? What's going on is a spiritual experience. Of course, these people are being oppressed by demons, and who knows how it is playing out, but there's definitely a lot of cases documenting that people call on the name of Jesus and these experiences end, which tells you that this is demonic. Absolute proof that this is demonic, meaning there's no little green men from Mars, folks. These are demons appearing to people, and maybe they're fallen angels. Who knows what's going on exactly? There's certain theories about that, but that is definitely not the case that they're from Mars or from other planets, as they're telling you. Here's another. If you go to BitChute and you type in NASA bloopers, there's so many videos, guys. This is 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Here they are in their little spacesuits, faking the ISS, old videos, mistakes in camera shots, fisheye lenses, CGI in the ISS. So much stuff. There's so much stuff. Just if you believe that the ISS is real, look at this. Look at this and see what. Here's a little sh sign. They love to do the Freemason stuff. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. And of course, the last one, breaking news, leaked NASA footage, the first dog on the moon. Look at him digging away. Leaked NASA footage of the first dog on the moon. Very cute. Anyway, just a little fun way to end this off. So conclusion, as you can see, my friends, the deception is very much alive and well. And notice all of the themes that we discussed before in this entire presentation coming together. Discoveries that refute the model are quickly explained away. Bad science and conjectures are building on top of previous bad science and conjectures. Many signs and wonders, like fear, distractions with the kitty and the laser and the God of Chaos asteroid, everything to push you in one direction, which of course is climate change, transhumanism, evolution, ecumenism, and so on. And of course, the final wrapping element of that was that meeting in Rome. I believe this year, 2024, the year that I'm recording this, to basically, for Rome to gather all of the intellect of the world and say, all right, it's time for you to honor your mother now. the mother of all of these abominations. Now we're gathering to Rome, all the Nobel Prize winners, and Rome is reflecting on consciousness and the universe and cosmology and everything else. So religion and science are coming back and uniting because all roads lead to Rome. So in other words, nothing new under the sun. In the coming years, more of these signs and wonders will probably take place to unify the world into one culture, one spirituality, because the mystery religion is coming forward from the shadows into the light. That is the point of the woman that rides the beast and the kings of the earth giving their power to this entity. You're going to see things with climate change being very ecumenical. I've covered that quite a bit, how climate change has gone from dark to light. It's gone from being a liberal atheistic thing to now all the Christians and the Protestants and evangelicals are all about climate change. And it's become an ecumenical point. Muslims and Jews and Christians, doesn't matter. Let's all get together for the planet. So it's become a religious ecumenical thing because we all believe in one God and God gave us this planet. So let's all take care of this. So again, you are seeing the union of false science really and spirituality. You're going to see more of that. You're going to see science returning to spirituality more and more, just like that meeting. You're going to see more and more Rome is going to stamp its authority on all things, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's climate change, whether it's space exploration or whatever else. It's going to be more and more Rome. What does Rome think? What shall Rome tell us about this? And eventually it's going to be pretty much unified as it was before. You'll see dialectics like weather manipulation, holograms, visions, UFOs, all kinds of stuff to basically move people into the ultimate destination. Remember that the Great Delusion that comes upon the earth, which of course is people marveling after the beast, comes with all power and signs and wonders of Satan. This is 2 Thessalonians, let me get the window right here. There we go. 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 9 through 12. The coming of the lawless one, which, by the way, is the first beast of the sea in Revelation 13. So the world marveling after the beast is the coming of the lawless one, which is the Great Delusion, is by activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders, and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Therefore, God sends them a strong delusion so that they may believe what is false, in order that all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Now, I'm not saying through this text that if you believe in heliocentrism, you've taken the mark of the beast, or you're not elect, or you're going to be thrown in hell, whatever. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying that the marveling of the beast, which is coming very soon, folks, in the next 10 years, you're going to see this being fulfilled, I believe. Give or take, maybe less than that. But the coming of the world marveling after the beast, the lawless one, because this is an institution of men. The lawless one is not a singular individual, it's an institution of men. And I talk about that quite a bit in my End Time series, also my episode on True Antichrist. Check that out. The Man of Lawlessness Revealed, or the Man of Sin Revealed, something like that. But it's an institution of men. The coming of this institution, being worshipped and adored and marveled after as the authority of all things, is by all signs and wonders and power and deceptive power of Satan, which is exactly what the Bible tells you in Revelation 13, that Satan gave his throne, his authority, and great power to the first beast from the sea. So out of all the satanic vehicles on the earth, the devil chose the papacy to be his vehicle, the vicar of Satan, really, to rule the earth through. And at the end of time, there will be a resurgence in the mystery religion principles, a union of church and state. All things will unite back into a religious mindset, and everything will be in the domain of the beast. And this is the direction we're going to. And in order to accomplish that direction, there will be massive deception. Part of that deception is the heliocentric deception. There are other parts, and that's why I've created major series to look at. End Time series, the Trinity series, the Great Delusion series, the Sabbath series, Afterlife series. All these things are going to come in play. Right now, as the time of this production, I still have to create the series on salvation, which will be very in-depth, because that's another hook that Rome has. And if you are Arminian or you believe in free will salvation and synergism, that hook will get you, because synergism is exactly what runs the NAR, the climate change movement, politics, all of these things are based on synergism and synergistic attitudes. Ecumenism, we have to do it, otherwise it's not going to happen. That synergistic mindset is the devil's version of salvation, which of course is damnation. So that's not done yet as of the time of this video, but it may be in the future. So if you're watching, make sure you check it out. But the point is this: don't be deceived. Don't be swayed. Do not feel ashamed if people call you stupid for believing the Bible or for claiming that you believe what the Bible says, that you live in an enclosed space where the earth is flat with local light sources. Don't feel stupid. Don't feel ashamed, because there will come a time when maybe you may have to stand up for this belief when they start pulling false signs and wonders and holograms and UFOs or all kinds of things, and you'll have to say, that's fake. It's not true. What they're doing is lying. They're staging something. I don't know how it's all going to play out. I'm sure that more things like this will come down the pipeline, so be aware of them is the point. But now you know, so don't be ashamed if people call you stupid for believing the Bible, and don't be afraid, because now you know the truth about the heliocentric conspiracy. Onward to the final part of this, which is the epilogue.